Hello, everybody. Thank you for coming, and thank you to the organizers for inviting me. It's a bit of a challenge to be a first speaker. I hope I managed to get this right. Yeah, indeed, as a policy officer in the Commission, I'm not used to kind of TED Talks. So I'm usually behind the desk writing some long documents that you then read or not. Yeah. So it's nice to change the roles a little bit. Yeah, I was asked by the organizers to start my talk a little bit with the dreams. What do I dream of in 2013? And yeah, that's kind of easy because my dreams, to some extent, coincide with the work that I'm doing. And indeed, the dreams of the European Commission as enshrined in the European Green Deal and the Circular Economy Action Plan. So we are all dreaming of the world where all packaging that we are putting on the market is recyclable and reusable. I mean, both actually. Reusable should be also recyclable, but all packaging should be recyclable that we are putting on the market. So I guess in order to achieve this, my first big dream is that we manage to write our European legislation in time so that industry manages to then adapt their packaging in time so that in 2030 this is not just a dream but a reality. Yes, and for this to happen, indeed, I do dream, and I hope this becomes a reality, that we will have very sophisticated and well-functioning systems of assessing recyclability of packaging, that they will be very clear to everybody what kind of packaging is considered recyclable, that there will be infrastructure in the member states which will align with this design for recycling criteria, and that there is clarity when you're putting your packaging on the market, that you know whether you are recyclable or not, and that also member states know whether the infrastructure they have is making the packaging, let's say, in their markets more or less recyclable compared to markets of other member states. So here I'm already a bit describing what kind of online tool we are conceiving in our heads right now, which will be the first stage of the recyclability assessment of packaging. Then, of course, we are dreaming of other things, not only recyclability, but we are also dreaming of less packaging, not necessarily less consumption, but less packaging, smarter packaging, which does not consume so many natural resources. We are dreaming of more reuse, yes, in an environmentally friendly way, of course, taking account of all the parameters that need to be taken into account in order to make reuse sensible. But still, we believe that the natural resources are just not infinite, and that we have to use them in a different way than until now, when basically we were considering that it's a bit infinite and we can grow forever. Packaging has been growing faster than GDP and the population growth. We don't want this packaging growth to stop completely, but we do want to slow down and to reduce the growth. We are considering some targets in this regards by 2030, which we hope will be achieved to some extent by reuse, but also through different measures by different business models which use refill or which use just no packaging at all, different design of products. So yeah, I think there is a lot of scope for innovation, and that in many ways what we are thinking of is going to rely, of course, on the businesses doing their job in improving what they are doing already and making it more sustainable. We believe that regulatory push is necessary for this to happen. And so we are working on this. Then maybe just to clarify where we are at the moment, we are hopefully at the end of a rather long process, which started already in 2018 when we adopted the packaging directive, amendment of packaging directive, and in that directive we wrote that we are going to revise the essential requirements for packaging, so the requirements that packaging has to comply with in order to be put on the European market, because we realize that these essential requirements, if you want to implement them, if member states want to implement them, they are creating barriers to the internal market, which is more or less the reason why nobody is implementing them. So we had a legislation which just nobody used and was not sufficiently enforceable. And this is something that had to be amended, had to be made better. So we have launched a series of studies. First, there was a scoping study to identify what kind of measures we could we could think of in order to improve the situation with the essential requirements. And then in 2020, we launched the so-called impact assessment study, which has ended in December, but we considered that we needed some more data, so we actually launched another study. So in the end, as I was also saying just before in the break, we are really dealing with a big document right now of more than 1,000 pages of an impact assessment study. And we have to write also a regulation, because we decided that a packaging directive is perhaps not the best legal instrument to deal with the situation of the further need of harmonization and further need of unification in a way of the packaging internal market. Because packaging, well, all goods are traveling around in the European Union packed. So it's very important that there are no different rules in the member states as regards what kind of packaging can be put on the market, as regards labeling of that packaging, as regards, the different requirements, what is considered to be reusable, what is considered to be recyclable, and so on in different member states, which oblige packaging producers and brands to constantly redesign their packaging and their goods, basically, in order to travel within the internal market. So this is simply something that cannot be allowed. So we are now, in order to achieve, first of all, faster implementation of this legislation, but then also more unification, more harmonization, we are going to transform the current directive into a regulation, which is a challenge in itself, because it means, of course, that we need to define in this legal act not only the obligations that are put on the member states, as is usually the case with directives, but on the specific actors. So on retailers, on producers, on member states, on I don't know, the different authorities in the member states and so on. So it's a specific challenge to write this regulation, because it's also being done now for the first time. So as far as I'm concerned, I can stop here, and you are welcome to ask afterwards any questions.